If there's one thing that can silently destroy your confidence, it's overthinking your decisions. You might think you're just being careful or trying to make the right decision, but in reality, every time you hesitate and replay the same thoughts over and over again in your head, you are training your brain to doubt itself. And the hidden cost of overthinking isn't just wasting your time and draining your energy, it's eroding your self trust. You start to doubt your ability to make decisions, believing that clarity comes from thinking more, when in actuality, it comes from acting with intention. I've definitely been there myself where I've spent hours or even days trying to make one small decision. And the irony is, the more time I spent thinking, the less confident I became in the decisions I would make. So in this episode, I'm breaking down the 12 signs that overthinking is destroying your confidence and how you can rewire your brain to rebuild trust in your decision making. And if you stay until the end of this video, I'll share one mindset shift that completely changed the way I see decision making. So let's get into it. Sign number 1, you constantly second guess yourself. You make a decision and immediately afterwards, your brain starts to wonder if that was the right choice. The problem is, the more you question yourself, the less you trust your own judgment. It's like telling your subconscious that your decision making isn't reliable. For example, when was the last time you sent an email and then went back to reread that already sent email, wondering if you sounded unprofessional or made a mistake? That small act of second guessing yourself is chipping away at your self-trust. Now, the solution to this is to decide once and then fully back yourself. When you back yourself fully, what you're doing is increasing your confidence by teaching your brain that you can handle the outcome even if it's imperfect. Sign number 2, you delay taking action. Overthinking creates paralysis by analysis. When you spend a long time trying to make the perfect choice, sometimes those opportunities can change or pass you by. And the longer you wait, the more your brain associates hesitation with safety, which reinforces indecision. What you can do in this situation is to practice taking imperfect action. We often think confidence comes from having perfect information, but the paradox is that your confidence doesn't grow before action, it's actually built from it. So the next time you're faced with a small decision, practice taking imperfect action, which will train your brain to trust movement over rumination. Sign number 3, you magnify small mistakes. When you replay every small error that you make, what you are doing is focusing your attention on proof that you can't trust your own decision making. Maybe you've had an awkward interaction, missed a small detail at work, or stumbled during a conversation. All these things could lead to overthinking and create negative thought patterns. The problem is, every time you obsess over mistakes, you reinforce failure as identity instead of feedback, which destroys your confidence. The solution here is to reframe mistakes as data. Instead of beating yourself up mentally for messing up, ask yourself what you can learn from this experience. When you replace guilt with growth, you begin to view mistakes as lessons you can learn from as a way to rebuild your confidence to make better decisions in the future. Sign number 4, you depend on other people's validation. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting feedback or input from other people, but when you constantly seek reassurance before making decisions, what you are doing is hoping that someone else can give you the certainty you want from within yourself. And the thing is, every time you outsource the trust in your own decision making, you're also outsourcing your confidence. In this scenario, the solution is to practice making small, independent decisions on a daily basis. When you start with something low stakes, like what to eat or what to wear, over time, this rewires your brain to depend on your own judgment and approval first, which builds your confidence through repetition. Sign number 5, you lose momentum. Overthinking is like pressing pause on your life, but the reality is time still passes and circumstances can change because time waits for no one. So the longer you stay stuck hesitating, the more resistance you create for yourself. And when resistance builds, your brain starts to associate action with discomfort, which becomes a self-fulfilling cycle of doubt and delay. If you want to build momentum, the solution is to break larger goals into micro actions. When you take small actions, what you're doing is building momentum. And that momentum builds belief, and that belief builds your confidence. So instead of waiting for motivation to act, create it through motion and momentum, and the motivation will follow. Sign number 6, you compare yourself to everyone else. Comparison is a type of overthinking that kills clarity. When you measure yourself against others, your brain starts to focus on everything you lack. This erodes your confidence because every decision now feels like a test you're failing. Let's say you see someone else post a success story online, and now your own progress feels small in comparison. This comparison trap can cause you to feel like you're losing this imaginary race that you've built in your head, leading you to feel discouraged and making it easier to spiral into overthinking. What you have to do in this scenario is to stop focusing on these comparison triggers and begin refocusing your attention on your own growth markers. Just remember that everything around you will constantly change, but the only constant is comparing yourself to yourself. When you aim to be 1% better than you were yesterday, you build true confidence that is internal, not relative and tied to the people around you. By the way, if you're ready to stop overthinking and reclaim your mental clarity, I've put together a free ebook called Don't Overthink It. I know the title is pretty straightforward, but it's a simple guide that helps you understand the root cause of overthinking and gives you actionable strategies to build confidence in your decision making. So grab a copy in the link in the description below. Sign number 7, you create imaginary problems. When you're busy obsessing over what ifs, your brain floods itself with stress hormones for problems that don't actually exist yet. And what this does is exhaust your emotional energy and paralyzes you from acting with clarity. In this situation, the solution is to ask yourself if this is a current problem or a predicted one. The brain loves to predict and anticipate, but if it's keeping you stuck in overthinking, you have to make a conscious effort to redirect your focus to what's happening right now. When you practice mindfulness and ground yourself in your present reality, you allow your brain to think rationally and see what is within your control instead of what is beyond it. Action is what dissolves imaginary fears faster than overthinking ever will. Sign number 8, you disconnect from your intuition. Overthinking is what makes you doubt your gut feeling. Now, your brain is up to 86 billion neurons, and your gut actually has the second highest amount in your body, which is why it's called the second brain. Think about it like this. Your thoughts are the language of your brain, and your emotions are the language of your body. So when you think about intuition, it's actually your subconscious pulling from past experiences and emotions that can help guide your decision making, where both your thoughts and emotions are information. And if you want to operationalize this concept into decision making, what you can do is practice listening to your gut instinct. Write it down before you analyze it, and then track how often it turns out to be right. The more evidence you collect, the stronger your confidence becomes in trusting your intuition. Sign number 9, you fear judgment and stay silent. When you hold back an opinion or idea out of fear that it will be rejected or criticized, this silence sends a subtle message to your brain that your voice doesn't matter. And over time, this becomes a belief that can shrink your confidence and lead you to overthink similar situations in the future. The solution here is to start sharing your thoughts even when you're afraid. Don't overthink it or feel the need to over-explain yourself. Even if your voice shakes out of fear, each time you speak in these micro moments, you are telling your brain subconsciously that you have the courage to face your fears, which boost your internal confidence. Just remember that silence can become self-rejection. So every time you speak, Your confidence is growing through self-expression, not perfection. Sign number 10, you're mentally exhausted. Overthinking doesn't just waste your time, it also depletes your mental energy. When your brain is constantly running endless possibilities, then decision fatigue can set in. The more you analyze, the more you drain your cognitive resources, making even simple choices feel overwhelming. And eventually, self-doubt and indecision masquerade as mental exhaustion. A solution to mental exhaustion is to set decision deadlines. Give yourself a window of time to make a decision, and when it closes, decide and move on. If it's a small decision, you can give it 10 minutes. If it's a medium decision, you can give it an hour. If it's a big decision, you could give it a day. Whatever the time frame is that you give yourself, this seemingly simple strategy allows you to act instead of staying stuck in a mental fog of over-analysis. These decision boundaries essentially train your mind to act decisively instead of being trapped in hesitation. Sign number 11, you focus on what if instead of what is. When your attention lives in the future, what you are doing is robbing yourself of the present. Confidence doesn't come from what could go wrong. It comes from knowing what you can do right now. Being stuck in what ifs can cause you to lose sight of what's working and feed anxiety about things that might never happen, creating unnecessary stress loops. A solution to stop this type of overthinking is to use the 3 C's, which are catch, challenge, and choose. When you catch yourself overthinking, challenge the fear behind it, and then choose one grounded action in the present moment. By doing this, you are building confidence by training your brain to see what is in your control instead of simulating an infinite amount of potential outcomes. And sign number 12, you forget your past wins. This one is interesting because when you overlook your past successes, you reset your self-belief to 0 every time you face a new challenge. You basically convince yourself you're unqualified, even though you've actually overcome harder things in the past. Just think about it like this. If you've never ridden a bike, you might lack confidence in learning how to ride a bike. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure you are confident in walking, when the reality is you once crawled before learning how to walk. So when you put this into perspective, you realize how capable you already are. This is why remembering your past wins is so important. Even though new challenges might look different, it doesn't mean you don't have evidence that you can in fact overcome them. A solution to stop overthinking new challenges is to keep a confidence journal where you log down your wins, no matter how big or small. What this does is provide you with evidence whenever you feel like doubt is creeping in, which gives you proof of your capability to reactivate that sense of belief in yourself. So here's the uncomfortable truth about overthinking. It's a learned behavior that most of us have developed as a coping mechanism to mask our fear of making decisions. Just think about it. You probably didn't overthink when you were a kid. It was something you learned over time. But the good news is what you have learned can also be unlearned. And when you shift your mindset to see that overthinking is not problem solving, but just problem prolonging, you realize that confidence doesn't come from eliminating fear. It comes from action that you take in spite of it. The more you trust yourself to handle uncertainty, the less you will feel the need to control it in your mind. And when you can do that, you'll notice that decisions become lighter, actions become faster, and your confidence becomes effortless. So which of these 12 signs resonates most with you? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you want to dive deeper into understanding how fear drives a lot of our overthinking, I definitely encourage you to check out my video on how to fear less and start trusting yourself more, which I'll put somewhere on this video around here. As always, my name is Dexter, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.